18, verse 1. Chapter 18, verse 1. So we're going to start with Rashi Yisro. Actually, what I like to do now, since I found this chumash in Rabbi Mintz's library called the Torah's Menachem chumash, no, I mean the Gutnik chumash, they have like a little introduction to every parsha, and so I like to they basically summarize why the parsha has its name, the name of the parsha. So I would like to just read what they say here from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Yisro was an idol worshiper. This is bit from the Rebbe Sicha 5737. We're now in 5785, so it's a few years ago. It's like 80 almost 48 years ago. So how could the parasha which the Torah is given be named after an idol worshiper? Because Yisro is an idol worshiper. Oh, you have it on the Sefaria. So actually, hello, Eric. So actually, it is true. When I went to Saudi Arabia, they like Yisro is a revered prophet in the Quran. He's one of the 7 prophets in the Quran, and he is what the Druze is very big with the Druze. And he's also big in the Quran. So why is the Torah named after him? So 45 years ago. So when Yisro abandoned idolatry and came to the desert,
sorry. it was 45 prophets, but please, sorry.
No, I was told that they have 7 prophets in the Quran. I was told they have 7 prophets in the Quran. I don't know, but that's what they told me. So when Yisro, priest of Midian, abandoned idolatry and came to the desert, it was an informed decision. And when he said, "Now I know that Hashem is greater," in chapter 18, verse 11, he says, "Hashem is greater than all the other gods." He was saying that he was giving the Torah an honor that an esteemed individual testified that Torah is the greatest wisdom of all. So he handed over his idol worship to the Torah. So this is what the Rebbe says about that. The Hasidus teaches that if you do any mitzvah for an ulterior motive, and everybody has an ulterior motive on some level, then there's a subtle overtone of idol worship. Because the idol worshiper is looking to a force other than God, and a mitzvah that's performed without the correct intentions is also an act done for motive other than God's will. So an ulterior motive makes a mitzvah smell of idol worship. So does that mean that person should stop doing mitzvahs if his motive is not pure? No, obviously not. He should always do it, but he should try to do them for the right reasons. Then he'll become like Yisro. So basically the idea is Yisro is the Torah portion is named after him because he handed over his idolatry to God. So that's the Rebbe's introduction from his Sicha in 5387. Now we go to the Rashi. Vayishma Yisro Chohe Midyan Chose Moshe Isko Asher Asal Kemu Moshe Yisrael Amo Yotzia Hashem Yisrael Mitzrayim. So Yisro Chohe Midyan, the priest of Midyan, who is an idolater, heard, who was the father of Moshe, he heard that which God had done to Moshe and to Israel, his people, that he led out, Hashem had led out Israel from Egypt. What did Yisro hear? So Rashi says, Ma Shmua Shama Uva. Rashi says, there's so many beautiful things in this first pasuk, the first Rashi. He says, what did he hear? He heard 2 separate things. He heard Kriyas Yamsuf, which was in the previous portion, and Milchamet Amalek, and the war with Amalek. So when he heard those things, he decided to come. Why did he? So there are two different reasons for him to come. What motivated him to come? So if we say that what he heard was the splitting of the sea, why was he coming? He heard of the great miracle. And if we say that what he heard was the war with Amalek, why did he come? To help out. So there's 2 possible reasons why he came. And Rashi is recording the Midrash that there's both of them. You could also read it like what I was saying when we were speaking about on Shabbos, that he heard that the Jewish people were blessed with supernatural, but they were also doing it on their own. They're also fighting on their own with Amalek. So that's this right that he heard. It's also possible, but the Rashi doesn't say it. You could also say he heard that Moshe was free, and he's like, okay, now Bnei Yisrael are free. Come get your kids. I had enough of watching them. You could have said it's time to stop being the Rabbi has so many beautiful things. He says Yisro did not come to convert. He never said, I want to join you. He never said, I want to join you. And in fact, it's not even clear that he stayed. Moshe begs him to stay in Bamidbar, but he doesn't stay. And he also doesn't come right when he hears the Exodus. But because he didn't come after the man or after Amalek. Amalek was after the man. And they already camped at Har Sinai. So the Rebbe says that he didn't come because of the victory over Amalek, but he came because of the war with Amalek. He came to annul the negative impression that had been given to the nations of the world in the aftermath of the war with Amalek. Meaning to say, the Amalek punctured the momentum that the Jewish people had in the world. The Bnei Yisrael were filled with momentum. Everybody was like, yeah, the Jewish people are, Hashem took them out. They're a great story. They're a rebellious nation that has led, overthrown the tyranny. It was a great feel-good story. Amalek came and punctured them. Amalek came and said, no, we're going to attack them. We're going to ruin them. And so that they switched it into negative energy. So Yisro came to bring positive energy. Eric is a leader of a lot of Jewish people. So you ever have like Eric a great idea, and then somebody pipes up in the room and gives a negative, and they just bring their negative energy into the world, into the room. And how are you supposed to do anything, right? So Yisro was bringing back the positive energy. That's what the Rebbe was saying. So that's what the Rebbe was saying. So the Rebbe has more commentary. You see, I love this commentary because it has, in addition to the Rebbe's beautiful insights, it's also a commentary on Rashi. So he says, what caused Yisro to come? So he cites the Mechalta. So it was the Amalek, whereas Rebbe Lezer said it was the splitting of the sea. So Rashi held that they were both correct. He incorporated them to one. So why does he have to say it was this and not the well or the man? Because he heard, meaning it was something that had happened in the past, not something that was ongoing, says the Rebbe. And the man and the well were ongoing. That's the Marshal's explanation. Now, one more from the Gur Aryeh. The Gur Aryeh is the Maharal of Prague. He wrote what's called a super commentary on Rashi. A super commentary on Rashi is that there's Rashi's a commentary, and it's a commentary on Rashi. There are over 800 commentaries on Rashi. Over 800. No, seriously, over 800 commentaries on Rashi. Just on Rashi's explanation. And basically what we're doing here now is, well, everybody here, we're doing another commentary on Rashi. People think, oh, I want to study the most difficult things. Rashi's like what first graders study. No, the most important thing for us to study is Rashi. Everything is from Rashi. Everything. So he quotes here, the Gur Aryeh says, all the earlier miracles that occurred to the Jewish people were specific to one area, meaning to say, the plagues in Egypt affected only Egyptians. So that's why it wasn't sufficient to Yisro to make him come to the Jewish people. However, the war with Amalek and the splitting of the sea affected the most basic elements of creation. because as Rashi says, we saw in last week's parasha, during the war with Amalek, Jerry questioned it last week, but he made the sun stop. Moshe made the sun stop. And the splitting of the sea changed the water. So this will change the nature of water. So that's what Yisro said, this is totally changed from nature. That's why they have to come. That's the Gur Aryeh. Okay. And one final thing that he cites, Ibn Ezra, that the parasha is written here to contrast it with the war against Amalek, which preceded it. Amalek acted wickedly against the Jewish people, but on the other hand, Yisro acted kindly. Well, that's kind of like what the Rebbe was saying, that it's the positive energy that Yisro is infusing. What you need to have, Eric, is every time you introduce an idea, you have to have a jumper, somebody who's going to stand up and say, great idea, but wait for the other person to be the negative first, and then you come up with the jumper. Yeah. You've done it already.
Rabbi, I just wanted to ask something for clarification. Is it Nechama Leibovich who invented the term bothered Rashi? Like the, because
I can't imagine. I can't imagine.
Okay.
I don't know who invented. You have to study the intellectual history of the term. The intellectual history of the term, what bothered Rashi? Somebody could write a PhD thesis on that. I don't know. What was bothering Rashi?
Okay.
You have to study. I don't know the answer to that.
Because it said about 800 commentaries. So.
Yeah. So we have some more commentaries here. We have here in my classic collection of Hasidic commentaries about this one statement that Rashi makes. We have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 commentaries just on that one commentary of Rashi. So we'll just read a couple of them. The Rebbe Rabunim of Peshisla, one of the greatest. I love him. I love Rebbe Rabunim. He says, Rashi, we skipped this. We skipped this part of the Rashi. We just kept focusing on the war with Amalek and the splitting of the sea. But the Rebbe Rabunim comes back to the words, Ma shmua shema uva. These are the first words of the Rashi. What report did he hear and then come? So the Rebbe Rabunim says, what need did he have? He says, the emphasis is on the word, and he came. What need did he have to come? Meaning to say, he could have been a Jew in his house. So this one's for you, Eric. Why do you have to come? He could have been a Jew in his house. So Rashi says, if the splitting of the sea and the war with Amalek, meaning to say, if you have such a elevation and revelation like Yam Suf, and then you could have such a descent after such an elevation, like the splitting of the sea, you could have such a descent like Amalek. You have to come to the tzaddik, meaning to say, I can't be by myself, because he realizes even though you could reach such a spiritual high, you could go right away down to such a spiritual bottom. You can't do it on your own. We can't do it on our own. We need to go to the tzaddik. We need to go to the tzaddik because otherwise we can easily go from a high to a low. And the Rebbe Rabunim is saying the splitting of the sea is a spiritual high, and the war with Amalek, he's interpreting it as a spiritual low. It's a battle against our spiritual enemy. So that's what the Rebbe Rabunim says. So another approach is from the Sheres Menachem. He says, again, he's by the same idea. Why did he have to come? He could have remained Jewish in his home. Why did he have to come? So he said he heard the splitting of the sea and the war with Amalek. From these two things, he learned that what a person gets without effort won't last. Because after they saw all these miracles on the sea and they came to such great, it says they had such a great awareness of God after the splitting of the sea. They had such an incredible awareness of him. So it says even the maidservant at the splitting of the sea saw God with greater clarity than all the prophets. Nevertheless, immediately Moshe had to take them away. And then they had Amalek, meaning to say, they said, is God in our midst or not? And so they saw basically. So again, it's the same idea, similar to what the Rebbe Rabunim was saying, is that he saw that our spiritual life is so fragile. That's basically what he's saying. Our spiritual life is so fragile, and it is fragile. Who amongst us has not had a bad day spiritually? Has anybody here ever had a bad day spiritually? We all have. We all have. Hello, Yoav. So that's what he's saying. He says, I now understand. You see how the Hasidim, they're not going to interpret what they do, always do, is they make it relevant for all of us. They're not going to say, oh, it has to do with the splitting of the sea back then and Amalek back then. It has to do right now for us. If we have a spiritual high, we then could have a spiritual low. We see how fragile we are. We see how we're on the edge of the iceberg. Oh, we could fall in at any second. So we see basically these two ideas in these rabbis. And now there's a similar idea, but this does it a little differently. This comes from the Rav Aleph Zion Rabbiner in the name of Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch. Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch was not a chassid, but he still says a similar idea. He says, what did he hear when he came? He says, you can't live on miracles alone. As Chazal say, we don't rely on a miracle. A person has to work hard in order to last. Without miracles, so that's what he's basically saying. He says we can't rely on miracles. So when he heard the war with Amalek, when it was just the splitting of the sea, he thought, okay, that was just a miracle. But then it was Amalek, they had to be involved personally. Then he realized he needed to come. I'll just do one more of this and then we'll go to the next Rashi. One more about this, and this is from Rav Asher Horowitz. He says, why didn't he want to convert as soon as he heard about the exodus from Egypt? The Rebbe asked that question also. So we see from here they say that Yisro thought that there's no reward for a mitzvah in this world. And he wasn't yet at the level of somebody who serves the Creator not to receive a reward. But when he heard about the splitting of the sea and the war with Amalek, and he heard that God saved the Jewish people, they put their enemies in their hand, he immediately came to the recognition that there's a reward in this world. So at first, hello, Eliezer. At first he said, I don't want to come because I'm not at the level where I'll serve God without a reward. But then when he saw there is a reward in this world, he came. So I don't know what the message is for all of us. I guess the message is that there's a reward in this world. So
because we still have some of that. We're especially in a capital environment. It's very hard for us to understand. Even when I spoke to one of my students about communism, he said, "But what incentive do they have?" I said, "Well, there's other things other than incentive, and anyway, I don't want to turn into political, but just
Shekoyach, Rabbi Yosef, Shekoyach. So you can always say whatever you want. We're never gonna stop you from saying what you want. So let's go to the next Rashi. The next Rashi, and they actually have here another 4 or 5 just on this Rashi, but we can't just do one Rashi. So the next Rashi says, Shiva Shemos Nikruo. Yisro had 7 names. 7 names. Reuel, his name was Reuel. His name was Reuel. His name was his name was Reuel, Yeser, Yisro, Chovev, Chaver, Keni, Putiel. Yeser, why was his name Yeser? Al Shem Sheyiter Parsha Achas B'Torah. Why was his name Yeser? Because he had one extra passage in the Torah. That's this portion. And as it says, Vatat Techazeh, you shall see. That's this passage over here. Why was his name Yisro? Sheniskayar became a mitzvos. When he converted and he fulfilled the mitzvos, they added 1 letter for his name. Yeser. Chovav, because he loved the Torah. And Chovav is Yisro, it says it. And it's maybe Ne Chovav Chosei Moshe. And some say Reuel, the father, was not Yisro, but it was his father. Umau Omer Batavona Reuel Avien. So Shatinokos Koron Avi Avianam. Sometimes they call their grandfather father. Anyway, we see from here that Yisro had 7 names. One of the names was because Yisro, because they added on a passage, was Yeser because they added on a passage to him in the Torah.
Did we ever talk about the different parshas that are in for people?
There are four. There is Yisro.
Si-
Yeah.
Noach, Balak, Pinchas.
Also Chaye Sarah. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically the only one that was born Jewish is Pinchas. And that's why everybody else we have to explain why it was named that way, because Balak didn't do anything good, and Korach and Pinchas are the only ones who were born Jewish. And so the people named it uh, and the sages name it that way in order for us to understand when you do something great, you're named. When you do something that is so not what Hashem wants, we can also name, but it's that way everybody remembers that Korach was not a good guy. So I don't know. That's my take on it.
Very nice. Yes, Shakoach. I was thinking something else. The 7 names. Why does he need 7 names? I think it goes through like you have these different identities in our life. We go through different stages in life. We're not always the same person. And sometimes people think it's a negative thing that you have a different name. Like somebody who said to me, why do you have to call somebody by their Hebrew name? You're changing their identity. But it's also good to change our identity a little bit, to grow. We can't just be the same person we were yesterday. That leads to staleness in life. We want to be dynamic. We want to grow. That's why we have this concept in our tradition. We add a name. If you want to change your luck, you add a name. Yes. What?
Does it say the 7 names?
Rashi here. No, Rashi on chapter 1, chapter 18, verse 1. Rashi lists the 7 names. Rashi, throughout the Torah, there is referred to 7 names for Yisro. So that was the idea. Akiva, hello, Greg. Hello, Ezra. You trying to say something, Akiva?
Yeah, I think some Latinos have like 7 names.
You know what? That's very nice. I once read this book. It had a big impact on me. I forgot I think it's The Girl with 4 Names. I forget the name of the book. It was about this woman from North Korea who she got out of North Korea and went to China, went to South Korea, and she kept having different names. If you Google The Girl with 4 Names, and she kept growing. It was part of her growth. And I think that Yisro what's so unusual about Yisro is he was the leader of his community, and he was willing to accept to grow. He could have, for leaders to change and grow is very unusual. For a leader to change and grow is extremely unusual. For like a person to evolve in his leadership, highly unusual. I mean, when you think about it, think about the people we know are leaders. They don't. And what were you going to say, Eric? So yes. Did anybody find that book, The Girl with 4 Names or something? From North Korea? Nobody Googled it? Okay. So anyway, let's daven mincha. This time it's time to daven mincha. Yasha koach.
Just have a true